Thanks for joining us today on Envision. We are talking with Dr. Brian Maher, our superintendent. We have selected an architecture firm that is going to help us in the development of the high school, or will this be over several projects?
This is specific to the high school.
Okay.
So that's the scope of this particular project.
Okay, so Architecture Incorporated is a local Sioux Falls firm that we've had an established relationship with for decades, and that is the chosen firm that we went with.
Right. We went through a process that we actually started before the bond election vote, and then began interviews 2 days after the bond election. Had a good number of firms that inquired and responded to our request for proposals. We vetted that number of firms down to 3 finalists, and then on the Thursday after the bond issue, I guess that would have been September 20th, we interviewed 3 firms, all with local ties, and in the end ended up selecting Architecture Incorporated from a very good and competitive pool of applicants. Architectural Incorporated, for the purposes of this job, is married to Dana Larson Rubel, DLR. DLR has, I would say, a national face to what they do. Both of those companies, Arc Inc. and DLR, have actually done work in the district before, so we know them a little bit. Arc Inc. has recently completed Sonia Sotomayor Elementary. Okay. Also CTE Academy, so we know the scope of work on those projects.
Sure.
But building a high school is a whole new scope.
Sure.
And so they thought they would bring in a little more horsepower with DLR. Well, DLR actually worked with the district back in the early 90s on the design, development, and construction of both Washington and Roosevelt High Schools. So we've got a little bit of a history with both firms, and now we're going to work with them together in their marriage to take us through the high school process.
Right, so that will look like a lot of input on what design looks like and that kind of thing. And as we said prior to the vote, not probably going to see a whole lot of difference in terms of architecture, not way out there kind of thinking, but more of that common sense approach to architecture.
We're building a school, and so I suppose there are a lot of whistles and bells that you might build if you were building your own building, or if money was no issue, but money is an issue.
Absolutely.
And so, but we've also got to build something that's long-lasting and something that will serve this community for decades. So we're mindful of all that. We'll put all that together. It will be aesthetically pleasing, there's no doubt in my mind.
Sure.
It'll also be incredibly functional. Some people have asked me, well, is this going to look like Washington and Roosevelt? And I don't know that it will. And here's what I remind people. Washington and Roosevelt were built 25, 6, 7 years ago now, and neither of them look like Lincoln High School,
right,
which was built about 25, 6, 7 years prior to their construction. So I think we'll make sure that we have the most up-to-date construction technology, as well as a building that helps us accommodate different instructional methodologies today than maybe were around in 1992 or so. Well,
I know people already jumping to what's the name going to be. Well, that's pretty far down the road yet. There's a process for that, and of course we'll follow the policy that's in place for naming school facilities. The other question that comes up quite often is, well, now you've said the high school is going to be in the northwest quadrant. Like, what's exactly the parcel of land, and how does that play into next steps as well?
Yeah, that's a critical next step. The naming of the school, redoing the boundaries are questions I get, both really, really important issues, but not immediate issues. Finding a land for a high school is an immediate issue, so that is not only a next step. After bringing the architects on board, that's probably the first thing that the architects are working on. In fact, they're working on it right now. Going into the bond election, we knew of 3 parcels of land that would need to be vetted by the architectural team once hired. And I would tell you that shortly after the election was successful, we had another landowner called and say, would you be interested in our land? And at this point, we're interested in all land so that we can vet and build the new high school on the best place available. Pretty much everybody now is aware of the generous offer we've had from Sanford. We've also had 3 other parcels of land that we're vetting. And in the end, we'll have the architectural team and a civil engineer that they are working with, who in the end will make a recommendation to the Board of Education. I suspect probably by the beginning of November or thereabouts. I don't know that that's a hard and fast date, but probably by November 1st or so, we'll have either a really good idea or know for sure where that new high school will be constructed.
Well, as you've said,
And we're not being coy, because
yeah.
I don't know
we
today.
just don't know.
Yeah.
But as you've said, if we are to open this high school by 2021, which is, we know we've got to have our ducks in a row if that's going to happen. If not, then 2022. Those steps are to be taken, and work is very focused on the possibility of us having it up and ready by 2021.
Think about that. The task force said, get this built by 2021 if possible. If not, by 2022. But get it done by 2021 if possible. And they said that in May of 2018. Seemingly plenty of time to get that done.
Sure.
But here we are now in October.
Yeah.
And we're still not quite sure where the site's going to be. So time
Is
clicks
of the
away,
essence.
and to get a building up and running by 2021, time is of the essence.
Yeah. Well, all of those things are on the table. We're thinking about them, doing the necessary work to make sure that we can bring forth to the community the right location for the new high school in the northwest quadrant of the city. And until more decisions are made, we'll all just have to stand by and wait till those things happen.
I'm as anxious as anybody to figure out where it's going to be.
I'm sure you are. Very good. Well, stay tuned to Envision, and we will let you know as soon as the recommendation comes forward. Thanks for joining us today on Envision.